So, I want to talk about something that I don't think gets talked about honestly enough: turning 30. And I don't mean the 30 is the new 20, and I don't mean the I've finally figured out my life 30. I mean the real version, the one where you look around and you realize that almost everything looks different than what I initially thought it was going to look like. And you're not devastated, but you're also not okay. You're just kind of somewhere in the middle. You're just trying to figure out what comes next. And honestly, that's exactly where I've been. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And this is just going to be like a chit chat conversation because honestly, here's the thing that I've learned about turning 30. I think there's a lot of us out there, whether we say it out loud or not, that the idea of turning 30 in our heads is very different. So, like, when I was in my 20s, I thought, okay, when I turn 30, I'm going to have this type of relationship. I'm going to have this type of career. I'm going to have this type of social circle. Like, this is going to be my financial status. Like, I had all of these thoughts around what I thought 30 was going to look like. And what's so funny about that is, like, where did that idea come from? Like, who put these thoughts and images in our head of, like, at each decade of life, this is what it's supposed to look like? Because it wasn't me. Right? Like, it may have been social media, it may have been movies, it may have been, like, people around me, adults, friends, who knows, but I I had just spent so many years quietly building this version of myself that I thought I was supposed to want. Like, this is what it's supposed to look like when you hit this age. And then I turned 30, y'all. Right? Like, I turned 30 and it was just one of those. It's okay. It was just Amazon. It was just Amazon. It was just Amazon. Back to what I was saying. So I turned 30 and it wasn't like this huge, big, dramatic moment. Like, I didn't wake up on my birthday and just feel like everything fell apart or feel like everything felt different. It was more of like, probably I would say 4 to 6 months after turning 30 that things started changing. And at first it was quiet and then it was all at once. So let's jump into it. I want to be really honest about what the season looks like because I know there's probably many people out there who, you're coming upon your next birthday, you're coming upon your next decade, and there's all these expectations out there of like what your life should look like. And so one of the things that I want to address is when people say like, "Oh, I did this or I turned this age and like my life fell apart," right? It doesn't have to be this dramatic, like you've lost everything and life is just not the same. It's often not like that. In some cases it is, but for the most part, it's going to be subtle to moderate shifts and changes, and then maybe a couple of like really large life changes. So for me, it wasn't dramatic at all. It was just a lot at what I felt was all at once. So I would say probably around 29 going on to 30, maybe even like around 28, 29, 30 is when I just felt like every month, every quarter, like something was happening. Something was new, something was changing in my life. And some of it good, some of it like not so good, some of it just different, some of it just not what I was used to. And so for me, it was my social circle started to look different. The community that I had been a part of for like almost 10 years, I ended up walking away from it, right? Like, that one probably hit the most. I'm not going to lie. I think I mentioned in like one of my last videos, like, we went through a change in churches. And for me, as someone who grew up in the church, who grew up as a pastor's kid, who grew up in like a certain part of the church, certain style of church, it just was a big change. And definitely like had somewhat of an identity crisis. I think I'm still somewhat going through one. But anyways, that was a huge change that happened before I turned 30. And like, let's just be honest, when you've been a part of something for so long, when it's been your home, it's, they're your people, like that's your framework, like you just feel so comfortable. When you leave that place, it really just does feel like you're losing a version of yourself. And so around the same time that that change was happening, I ended up getting like a serious health diagnosis. And that one rocked me because I was just not expecting it. And so I think there's something about a health diagnosis that like just cuts right through everything. Like it makes your world stop. Just between all of that, all of the noise, all of the change, just trying to figure it out, it made me realize how much I had just been running. I had been pushing and pushing and like trying to map out and maintain this like whole picture of my life without ever stopping to ask, like, is this what I really want? And then on top of that, to fast forward like another 8 months later, my career completely changed. I'm not going to get into like all of the details of this online, but what I will say is when your career or your livelihood changes unexpectedly and rapidly, especially when like so much of your identity is tied to what you do, it can leave you feeling very raw. It can leave you feeling very vulnerable. And it makes you ask the question, who am I without all of this? And that's where I was at. I remember having this moment of just like sitting there and looking around and just said, wow, everything in my life looks so different compared to where I thought I would be 5, 10 years ago. And not destroyed, not in a bad way, not ruined, just different. And I didn't know what to do with that different. And here's what I also didn't expect about all of this. It it wasn't like the changes themselves that was the hardest part of dealing with it. It was all of the questions underneath, right? So when you leave a community, especially like a church community that you've been a part of for a long time, when, you know, things in your health change, when um your job or your career changes, it really does bring to the surface, it really does expose a lot of things that you just have not dealt with. Like there were a lot of things that I just did not deal with in my 20s when it came to my identity and who I thought I was and how I showed up and all these things, right? And one thing that I wish I could have told my younger self, and that I want to encourage anyone who's watching that, is in their 20s, early 20s, mid, late 20s, whatever, like start understanding who you are with all of these things stripped away, without the friends, without the community, without the job, without the title, without the status. Like, who are you as an individual? And y'all, when I did that, I did not have a good answer for it. Like, that was probably the most confronting thing about this time in my life. Now, mind you, this all like in transparency happened again within like a 1.5, 2 year period. Like I turned 31 in June, right? So I'm still freshly going through this, but I don't know, a part of this video is me coping with and getting these words out, but another part of it is just wanting to encourage someone who maybe fears turning 30 or fears moving into the next decade of their life. Like, you have to realize that at some point in your life, you're going to have to face yourself in the mirror and you're going to have to look to see, are the things that you are doing, is it just performance? Is it just to make other people feel good? Is it just to make other people like you? Is it just to not feel alone? Because that's what I realized I was doing, especially for most of my 20s. It was showing up in rooms trying to be who I thought other people wanted me to be, was me building a life around what I thought I was supposed to want. Like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what society tells you. This is what your family told you. This is what your friends told you. But how much of it is really for you? And so when I started to kind of allow these external things to shift in my life and not react to them shifting, like when the job changed, when the church changed, like when the health changed, it was like I finally saw that I was using all of these things to define myself. I was left there asking myself, like, who am I? And I think all of us need to ask the question and do like the deep soul searching of like, who are you? What do you actually like? What do you actually believe? What does your life look like when you stop building it based on other people's approval? And quite honestly, like I just said, I'm still in the middle of this. I'm still figuring all of this out. I don't have it all figured out just yet. But what I know now that I didn't know then, especially when I was entering into this season, was that not knowing the answer is not the actual problem. The not knowing is the beginning, right? It is you entering the season of like, oh, wow, I'm finally figuring out who I am. And one thing I will say is I don't think this happens to everyone at 30. It could happen to you at 20, 40, 50, 60. Like, I think the point of this is just to say, like, you're hopefully going to get to a point in your life where you realize, like, you know what? My life's not meant to be lived based on what other people think of me or what other people want me to be. So, like, what's the point of all of this? The point of all of this is not to say, like, oh, everything happens for a reason or, like, just toxic positivity. Like, no, 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 no. It's genuinely me coming out loud and saying that if my life had stayed the exact same, right, with like everything moving in the direction that it was, I would have kept coasting on that version of myself that I had been performing for years. I would have never stopped to ask the questions. Like, let's just be real. I'm sitting here at 30 now, um, realizing like, what is my actual taste in music? Funny enough, like I found out recently, I really like funk. I really like house, like EDM. Like it's kind of wild because growing up the way that I grew up in the circles that I grew up in, like it was never okay. Does that make sense? Like it was just never okay to like these things. It wasn't stereotypically accepted. But now I'm realizing I was like, no, I do. Or like, what kind of movies do I like? What kind of TV shows do I like? What kind of food do I like? What do I like to do in my spare time? And I'm not basing it on hoping that the people around me will like it too. And if I hadn't gone through all of this, I would have never started to question these things. And here's exactly what I've learned so far. The most humbling part of going through change in life is hopefully coming to the end of that season or during that season and realizing that life is just not a destination. And I know, I know that sounds like something on a coffee mug, but it's so true. Like life is meant to be lived in every sense of the word. There's no arrival point. There's no moment when you just wake up and you're like, I made it. We've done it. We're good. There's never a moment in life where you just get to coast. And I think that's what I was in my mind hoping 30 would be is like, I've worked so hard. I've got my degree. I got my job. I got all this stuff. And now I can kind of just like coast. And I've learned really quickly that there is no coasting in life. It's all just a journey. And another thing that I'll add to that, not only is life a journey, but it's an individual journey. That's probably one of like the hardest things I had to recently accept is that you and somebody else may be on similar paths, but your path is going to have different things on it and their path is going to have different things on it. It's not going to be the same smooth path. It's not going to be the same bumpy path. It's not going to be the same uphill path. Everyone's path and journey in this life is individual. Now we can enjoy the journey together, but we can't live life thinking that if we're on this path together, then our journey is going to be the exact same. It's not. And that's an okay thing. That's actually how it was designed intentionally and purposefully to be an individual journey. Literally, nobody else can walk your journey for you. I think that's where, like in the last episodes, I've been talking about people pleasing. That's where people pleasing can be so detrimental because nobody can live your life for you. Nobody can walk your journey. Nobody can take the footsteps that you're destined to take. The sooner you stop waiting to arrive, the sooner you stop waiting for the right job and the right body and the right version of your life that you think will make you happy, the sooner you can actually just start living the one before you. Simple as that. And like I said, I'm still figuring it out. It honestly is a daily work. But one thing I'm also learning in this time is just to take myself less seriously. Even coming on here and talking about this is just another way for me to be so less married to the future, so less married to like, how do I want to be portrayed and what do I want people to think about me? And like all of these things that run through our mind. Like, have more self-compassion, have more compassion for other people. We are all on this journey individually and we're walking through it day by day. And I would say the last thing that I'm learning is I'm learning to not be afraid to be myself. Like I said, I'm learning little things about me that I just never allowed myself to explore, whether that's music, movies, food, whatever, hobbies. Learn to not be afraid of who you are, not be afraid of who God designed you to be. With all the quirks and all the flaws, it all encompasses a beautiful human being. And even when people don't understand it, because they won't, people will not understand you, people will judge you, people will question you, people will tell you that you're not doing things right compared to their standard or their expectations. At the end of the day, this is my journey, nobody else's. And I hope that that's the whole point of turning 30. I know people in my life have said like, oh, when you turn 30, like life just clicks. Like there's something that just changes in your brain and you just kind of start to accept who you are. And I will say it's true. Now, thankfully mine happened at 30. For some people it may happen at 31, 32, whatever, but I hope that everybody gets to experience this level of freedom that comes with just not taking life so seriously. Not being married to a picture of the future that isn't even set in stone in your mind. So if you're in a season of waiting, if you're in a season of just shifting, if you're in a season where like everything just feels like it's changing, I just want you to know that you are not alone and you're not behind. You didn't take a wrong turn. You're just on part of the journey that nobody put as a highlight reel. You're on the part of the journey that nobody is sharing in their stories. You're on the part of the journey that nobody is posting on social media about. And it's okay to not have it all figured out yet. It's okay to just be figuring it out. And that's it. So if you've stayed to the end of this video, would love for you to drop in the comments if you're in a season of transition right now, or, you've been through some of the changes that I'm talking about. I would genuinely love to know. And if you felt like this is something you needed to hear, then I'm glad. Give yourself a little bit of compassion and grace, and I will see you all in the next one.